Hello, everybody. My name is Abby Dolliver, and I'm Superintendent of Norwich Public Schools. And we're so pleased today to have many guests with us. First of all, we have our business administrator, Athena Nagel. And then we have many students from Teachers Memorial Middle School, two of whom are here on the panel with us, and many of whom are in the studio audience. And all of our students are taking part, most of them, in asking us questions about our budget process and how we fund the programs that our students so enjoy in our schools. So I would have our two panelists introduce themselves first, and then we'll start with the questioning. So go ahead, you can introduce yourself first.
I'm Terrell, and I'm in 6th grade.
Thank you, Terrell, in 6th grade, all right.
I'm Shahir, I'm in 8th grade.
8th grade, all right, great. So we're going to do this kind of in a, I'll call it round robin. I don't know what that means, but that's what I'm saying. And we'll start with questions from both of you, and then either Mrs. Nagel or I will answer them, and then some of the questions Garrett will help us with the studio audience. He's going to direct them on asking their questions. So we'll start with you, Terrell, with the first question.
First question is, what is a district budget?
What is a district budget? A budget is us forecasting the year ahead of time what we expect to expend. And that's important because that tells us how much money we need. We need from the state, we need from the city, we need for grants, and everything that we need to be able to make the district run properly. So that's all put into this big document that we work on for months and months at a time. We collaborate with the city, we do all kinds of things to make sure that our numbers are where they need to be, and it's basically what we need to run the district.
In a budget itself, our budget in itself for the district includes the cost of all the staff who work with you. It includes things such as the heat, things you wouldn't think of, transportation, how you got here today, how you'll get home, many things, and they may be some of the questions you're going to ask us further, but if you want us to talk more about what's in the budget, we can do that later. All right? Okay. Thank you. Shahir?
Okay. How do you decide what goes into a school district budget?
Oh, there you go.
Well, lately, we've been deciding what goes into the budget by basically trying to make sure we don't lose any services. So we want all of the students to remain receiving everything that they're currently receiving. So that's where we start. Right now, this particular budget, we are trying to add a few things back in that we have lost over the last few years, but we always start with what does it cost to do what we're doing today, and then if there are additional needs beyond that, what are those additional needs?
And you know, if you think about, you may have heard your parents talk about their budget, I don't know, but you have so much money and they have so many expenses, whatever that is, so they have to make the expenses fit into that amount of money. So that's in essence what we have to do. The tricky thing for us is we don't always know how much money we're going to have because we get it from all different places. So we have to decide what we want and then try to fill back in the amount of money we need for that. Right? Garrett, we are ready for the first question.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and my question is, how is the budget prioritized?
Good question, Ashley.
Okay, me again. The budget is prioritized basically, it's sort of based on the answer of the last question. Our priority is to maintain what we have right now. So we start there. However, there are other priorities that are mandated by the state, other priorities that we absolutely have to do. Now, one of them right now has been all the changes for testing. That has been a huge priority for technology. We've had to upgrade servers, we've had to upgrade computers, purchase Mac carts, iPads. We've done a lot of technology purchasing this year, and we've put a lot of money into maintaining our servers, even as simple as buying air conditioners to make sure they don't overheat while you guys are testing. So those are all priorities. Would that have been a priority last year? Probably not, because that testing situation didn't exist until this year. So every year there's different priorities. We don't always know what they are this far in advance. We try to plan for them. Some of them are special ed priorities, some of them are transportation priorities. We also have new magnet school priorities that are going on, so we have all of those to worry about. Depends on what the initiatives are that year.
And you can imagine with the testing, because I know you're going through it right now, to have every student, not just at Teachers Memorial, but in the district from 3rd grade up, on the computers testing and making sure everything works is a big deal. So that's what we have to make sure that we can do.
Hi, my name's Halsey. My question is, where does the money come from to support the
Budget?
yeah?
Okay.
The easy answer to that question is local taxes, the state taxes, and it comes from the state government. They give us a certain amount of money, and then the federal government filters down through some grants and things like that. The longer piece to that question is that we get money from all over the place. We get money from somebody coming in off the street and giving us $100. We get donations of $1,000. We get donations of 20 iPads. We get more substantial donations, like for technology, specifically for security. We apply for absolutely anything that we can come across, and it comes from all over the place. Could come from private industries. We've had lots of donations from places like Pfizer and Electric Boat. It comes from any place that we can build a collaboration.
Number 5.
My name is Claire, and my question I have was, what do we spend the budget money on?
Oh, lots of things, Claire. Probably the biggest item in the budget, and my sidekick will correct me if I'm wrong, is people. So the people, all of the people who work with you in school get paid to do that, pretty much. Some might be volunteering. That's probably the highest cost that we have, because we want to have enough people to make sure that we can be in every classroom and meeting all of your needs for the work that you do. We also have to pay for transportation. We have to pay for technology, like we said, just like at home. We have to pay for electricity. We have to pay for special services for kids who need special services. It's not that we have to, we want to. Students who may not know English as well, we do services for them. So specialized services, because we want everybody to get the most they can get out of their educational program. And then books, and we're using a lot of different kinds of books this year. If you are aware of that, I'm sure. Different kind of reading program than you had before. So math, same thing. So any materials, everything you have in school, we have to purchase.
My name is Kayla, and my question is, who must manage the budget?
Me. Actually, it's not entirely me. It's mostly me. I do have help managing the grant piece, because that's quite a bit of money. That's about $15 million, give or take, depending on the year. I do have people that are in charge of their own programs who use me as a resource. So, like the after-school program, they end up taking care of their budget, but consult with me. Food services actually acts a little bit more independently, because they're a self-funded program. They don't rely on the general fund budget. And then we also have adult ed, which relies mostly on grants. There is a small piece that comes out of the general fund budget. So they run their programs, but I oversee all of that.
And so even the fact that you're here, it costs money for you to get here. So we have to make sure that we take what it costs for you to get here out of the money we allocated for this whole program, and then we keep subtracting back until we've used up all the funds for this particular program. Not this show, but your program, Aspire. So, who has the next question? Okay.
Who decides what gets cut from the budget and what stays?
I'll do a little on that. That's one of our hardest things that we all have to do. Together, we meet with the principals. We get input from staff if they want to. What happens again is we have this, once the city decides how much money they can afford to give the Board of Education, we have to fill in everything else. So we look at what do we have to have? What does the law say we have to do? What are the things we kind of wish we could do that we don't have to do, but we really want to do? And then other things. So then the Board of Education, who kind of oversees what we do generally, they're elected people, they talk about it with us. We come up with ideas, well, we have to have this, so we can't cut it. We're not going to cut your math class. You have to have math. We want you to have math. Even though some of you might want us to cut math class, we can't. So, but in things like we are very anxious to have some instrumental music back, let's say in the middle school, or the opportunity for you to have world language. Those kinds of things, if they're not mandated, that means we must. So those are the kinds of things that we lose when we don't have enough money. But it's a collaborative decision, but the Board of Education really makes the final decision.
And that's all before we have a budget. That doesn't stop after we have a budget. Once we have a budget, things change on an absolute daily basis. So if we have more teachers out sick than we're expecting and we have to pay more for subs, or somebody's on a long-term illness, or we pay for everybody that goes to the doctors, we pay all of their doctor bills. We're self-funded, so we pay everything dollar for dollar. So if in a given month we have $100,000 worth of extra bills for doctor bills, medical bills, then we have to pay for that. So it's a constant shuffling of priorities even once the budget passes.
Or if you're testing and some of the computers stop working, or the roof leaks, we have to take care of all that somewhere out of some of the money. So you're always, just like at home, I would bet.
But we start with safety.
Yeah,
So
safety's first.
Safety's always first.
Yeah. Shahir?
How does the budget get approved before you bring it to the city council?
We have part of the Board of Ed, which is 9 elected people, a subcommittee of them called the Budget Expenditure Committee, meet to talk with us and talk about what's in, what's out, what do we think we have to have, like I said before. Then it goes to the full Board of Education, and that group of us talk about this is what we think the budget should be. We always want it to be more than what we know we can get, because we want you to have the most that you can have in school, the best opportunity. And the Board of Education then votes on the final budget that we then send to the City Council. And that's where we are right about now. Our Board of Education voted on our budget, and the City Council has yet to vote on their budget. That happens later on in the spring.
My name is Abraham. What happens once the city council votes? What happens?
When the city council votes on the final budget, there are a couple steps before that. The city manager will actually present a budget, I think next Monday. And once he presents a budget, there's a public hearing on April 17th where people can come to speak about the budget. They can speak about what the city manager is proposing. They can speak about what we're proposing. By then, we will have presented our budget fully to the city council, which is on April 10th. After that, then it goes through a whole nother round of meetings, and it doesn't get approved by the city council until the first or second Monday in June. It's usually the first Monday, but if there's something that they're waiting for that would be critical to their decision making, they would move it to the second Monday. After that, we just start doing what we need to do, implementing everything, bringing in, setting up the programs that we need for the following year, making sure we have all the supplies and staff in place to do them.
Next question.
My name's Tiani, and my question is, what happens if you run out of money?
I'm letting her answer that. She's in big trouble.
We didn't really
No.
want this question.
Thank you,
I
Tiani.
don't know. We've never run out of money. I don't know very many school districts that have. However, what I do know is that you can't sound the alarm after you've run out of money. I have to keep an eye on what's going on with the budget, and if there's a point in time that this is what I would do, listeners can call me and tell me if I'm doing something wrong. But if we got to a point where I was nervous about what the budget was doing, where the budget was heading, I'd first of all have to call an emergency meeting, or Abby would have to call an emergency meeting, Mrs. Dolliver, for the Board of Education. Then the Board of Education would basically bring the information to the City Council. If it's a relatively small shortage that we're having, say $1 million, in our world that's relatively small, then the City Council would have to make up the money to avoid anything farther. if we end up really with some sort of catastrophic shortage, there's no doubt in my mind that we'd have to bring the state in. I'm just not really sure how to do that.
And then if we run out of money in one area, then we may take it from another area. So we have to mix
And we
them
run
up.
out of money a lot in certain areas, but it's a bottom line balance. We have
Right.
to make sure the bottom line balances, and we have money left in some areas and short in some areas, so.
All right, next question. Good
Hi,
questions.
my name's Rebecca, and I was wondering how much money goes to each school and how is that decided?
Good question.
There's a formula, and, well, first of all, most of the money that goes to the schools doesn't actually go directly to the students, as people would say. So most of the money the principals don't have any control over. It's the heat, it's the property insurance, it's the liability insurance,
Repairs.
it's all of that. The sewer, it's all of that. So there's a lot that is not controllable. But when it comes down to things like instructional supplies, we use a formula. The formula is elementary based or middle school based, and it's a per student number. I don't remember exactly what that is. I think it's like, I don't remember exactly what that is. But it's also broken out by how much goes to some of the specials. So it's broken, some of them are broken out by number of staff members. Some of them are broken out by the number of students. It depends on what the line item is. And if it's broken out by the number of students, it's also broken out by so much money for art, so much money for PE, so much money for library, and so much money for music. So.
Next one.
Hi, my name's Cami, and my
Cami.
question is, who decides how the money is spent at the school level?
There's not a lot of flexibility at the school level in these economic times. There used to be, but there's not a lot. So much of it is at the central office level where it's curriculum based. So if there's curriculum changes, then Mrs. Dolliver can certainly address that. But that would be a district-wide initiative. Then if it comes to things like pencils and papers versus basketballs and soccer balls, that really is at the principal's level. They make their requests, and if there's money in the account, then I either have the ability to deny or accept the request.
Because it's based on that per pupil, remember what Mrs. Nagel said before. So if they have a certain amount in the pot for Teacher's Memorial, Mrs. Lazari may call, or Mr. Camp, or one of your teachers may call. They really would tell the principal, we really need this in our classroom or for our students, and if there's money that we feel that we can spend on that, then we do.
There are times also if there's needs and we don't have the money for it, there are almost $14 million worth of grants that we may be able to get the items that are being looked for out of one of the grants. Or we may search for grants and try to come up with them. So.
Who has the next one? You do.
Are there any
Terrell.
programs that were taken out of schools that you would want to see reinstated?
Actually, there were about 3 years ago when we had significant budget cuts. I would say that the middle schools lost the most. Programs that you haven't had the opportunity to really ever have. World language, like we used to have French and Spanish in the middle schools. You could have a little of each. Instrumental music, which is a great addition to what you already have in music. And having a library media specialist, a trained person in the library every day, so that when you go to the library and you want to do research, you would have somebody there. Those are some examples of things that were eliminated that we're trying to put back so that you all can benefit from them. You wouldn't in 8th grade, but other people will. I think you have the next question.
Yeah, I do. Sports programs have been significantly cut from our schools over the years. Is there any plan to reinstate them in the future?
Sports, again, it's a tough one because it's not mandated in terms of what the state says you must do or the federal government. We try to run as many sports programs through Aspire, which is separate grant funding as we can. It is something we'd love to be able to have enough money for, to say we always have basketball, we always have soccer and track and all the things that you would all like. Unfortunately, that's generally in the priorities down here, because other things are must-haves. That's not a must-have. It's important for physical and mental health. So we try to do it in other ways, like through the Aspire program. Next one.
Hi, I'm Amani, and one of the things I missed is the instrumental music. Do you have money for it next year, set aside for next year?
Well, good question, and so far we do. So I'll say this much. We heard the cries of your music teachers, the pleading and the saying how important it is. Ms. Millard said, man, when we had instrumental music, it was so beneficial for our students, and some of our other teachers said that, as well as parents. Many parents came and spoke to us. So we tried to find a way to put it in our budget. Remember, in the budget process, we put together our budget. The Board of Ed said, we agree, we want instrumental music in your budget. So right now, it's in our budget, but it may not stay in our budget depending on what the City Council does.
Hi, my name is Ricardo, and my question is, through the various grants of our schools have received technology such as MacBook carts and iPad carts, is there any money that will allow the district to create classes such as video productions, digital music productions, photography, and digital art in the schools?
That's a
Well, I don't know if there's any grants for that. We certainly keep our eyes open for anything that, we can come up that will add value to the district. And I haven't seen any grants for something like that, other than in the past there were things similar for the after-school programs, and we did get them, but they've since expired.
The other thing is, if you think about being here, this is public access, meaning anyone in the public can use this studio pretty much. And so we're doing that as a way to have you learn about video production. And even though it's once, every month or not even, we're trying to find other ways, if we don't have it in our schools, to expose you to these kinds of things. That's why we do this. That's why we added students to this. Just talking to me was pretty boring. We needed the students here, and then you ask the good questions. So this is a way for you to see what it's like. Next one.
Hi, I'm Christopher. Are there any funds outside of the budget that could help pay for programs that were cut?
Well, that's similar to the last answer that, if there are, we don't know about them other than everything that we've already been researching. So we have been looking at, if you're not aware, we do have a network school. We're looking at a possibility of another network school. We've got two magnet schools coming on board. We have alliance funding. So those have been huge pockets of funding to help us implement some creative changes for our district. We're always looking for some sort of way to make things happen. In addition to, it's not even always just about the money. In addition, we often look for partners that will provide services to us at a really discounted rate or even for free. Many people are willing to work with our students. We just need to reach out to them.
Next question.
Hello, I'm Noah. Where am I able to find more information about the budget?
All right. Good question, Noah.
Okay. You can go right to the Norwich Public Schools website. The budget documents are out there. There's two budget documents. One is very easy to read. That's for the general public, but the other one is also out there if somebody wants to get more in-depth into the details of the dollars.
And also, we would encourage you to ask questions. You can ask us, you can email us, or ask one of your teachers to. Talk to your parents about the budget. Tell them how important it is that we have a good budget. Okay, we have about 5 minutes left.
Can people donate money to the budget to create more money in the schools?
We do get some donations. We do have a foundation, which is a nonprofit, kind of separate from the district, but what they're doing is taking donations, and then teachers write grant applications and say, I could really use this for my classroom, and then the foundation gives that money to the teachers to do special things. In terms of other donations,
We actually receive donations a lot. We don't often receive them district-wide. So for example, we did have one person who every year would donate a sizable sum to one of the schools. Didn't necessarily even say what it was for, so they just made sure they used it for some sort of student initiative. Many will make a donation that has a specific purpose. So for example, if they want to donate $1,000 and they want it to be for iPads at Huntington, that's what it'll be for.
So people can.
So people do. It's not as much as, I mean, it's not huge dollars, but it meets specific purposes. We can't really use it for the operating budget. It's usually for the things that add additional value that we can't do with the operating budget.
Any
And
others?
As students, what can we do to convince the town that the school budget is important?
Well, there's several things. One is you can ask your parents to come and speak at the public hearing for the city council to say, I heard about what the budget is about, and please go and speak about how important it is that we use our tax dollars to pay for education and for what you need. The other is you can write letters. You're learning about persuasive writing. You're having to write in your classes. I'm sure you try to talk your parents into things all the time. If only I could. I really want this. And why, right? That's probably what you do a lot in your middle school years. Do that about that. Do that to the city council or to me or to the mayor and say, this is why I feel this is so important. So you could do it in that way. Then your voice is heard like it's heard today. So there are ways that you can impact it. The closing question I have, and we only have another minute, and I'll link it right. I'll leave it right here with you two. Is there a creative way? And we have 2 minutes, so we each have about, I don't know, not long. Is there any creative way that you could think of right off the top of your head that we could fund things?
Maybe we could have a car wash.
A car wash, well, yep. You could do that at your school and then use the money specifically for your school.
A bake sale.
A bake sale, another thing. So that's another way that we can raise money. Anyone out there have a question? Or an idea, rather? A creative way, yes. Stand up, if you don't mind.
I think that we could do a bake sale or like have more dances
Mm-hmm.
and we could raise money that way.
And the dances don't and you make sure you pass the microphone around, all right? The dances generally pay for the DJ, but if you charged an extra $1, let's say, then that's a lot of money when everybody goes towards something that you want in your school, but that's a great idea. Any other creative ideas? I think we have about 1 more minute. Do you have one? Anyone? No? Yes, one more. Could you pass the mic, and then that will be the last one.
We can sell things like books that we don't use anymore.
That's possible. We usually donate them. And I don't know how many of you sold bracelets with little roses on them. I have mine on. I bought one. See, that was a fundraiser that parents did, right? To raise money for activities for Teachers Memorial. I just thought of that. So I think one more, and then we have to wrap it up. Okay, Garrett wants to ask one. Oh, all right.
We can probably like sell things that we make, like a
Possible.
crafting class, and sell them.
These are all ideas that you can bring and try to organize. Garrett, go ahead, quick, one idea. I don't want to leave you out.
We could sell Bible bracelets.
Well, if people want to buy them, and then you have to put the money to a good cause, but you can't make them in school. That's the only thing. All right, I think that is the end of our show. This is the first time we included the studio audience, which is great. We're so happy that you were both here on the panel, Mrs. Nagel and our students, and we're very, very proud of our students at Teachers Memorial and all of our students, and thanks to Ms. Millard for rounding up the troops and having them so prepared. So have a great day, everybody, and thanks again.